And thank you everybody for joining us in this very first webinar, open call to get everybody up to speed where we're at in the process, in the lovely road to building one of these things yet again for Underland this year. So my name is Danae, and I'm the Artery lead for this year. And I'm also accompanied by Glenn and Axel, who are our effigy mentors. And they'll also be talking with you today just to let you know about some things, about what we've got to work with, about some of the expectations that we have for some of our crew members that are coming on board with us, and some of the safety features of what we're doing and exactly how you can get involved. So we are really just, really keen, I suppose. We're getting excited. We want to get the ball rolling on this, and we have. So far, we've had one meeting to kind of, get that process started. And we've sort of, are really passionate, I guess, about this idea of bringing some amazing artworks to the Underland event. So that's why we're all here. And we appreciate that you have set aside time, whether you're actively here with us right now or whether you're going to be watching the recording. You've made the effort to listen in and see if there's something you can do to help and be a part of, or maybe you just like to listen in and have a bit of a sticky beak and get to know exactly what's happening with this process. Either way, this is a community build. This is about, complete transparency, and we're all getting involved and we all understand what's happening and putting in wherever we can. So Underland is indeed happening, as we know, in September, the last weekend, and we're looking down the barrel of quite a tight deadline yet again. But we did it last time. We know we can do it again. We do need all hands at deck, and we know that we can create some magic, but it would be great to have a few more hands because we really want to build that capacity of our community. And that's really a big feature of this particular group that we're pulling together. We're building something a little bit special, a little bit different, and something that's really tailored to who we are as a community. A little bit of housekeeping, of course. Please make sure you mute your camera. I mean, not your camera, your speaker. That would be really lovely. Please make use of the hand up function and of the chat as well if you do want to ask questions. So the idea is we're going to have Axel speak first, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about the materials, about the time commitment and logistics of what we already know that we're working with. Glenn's going to be then speaking about those expectations, about what you can expect if you're a crew member on the effigy team, and about that role description and the kind of people that we're looking for. And also he'll speak to a bit of safety support. And then I'll wrap up, I'll be back again, and I'll talk to a little bit about that application that we're going to sort of provide for you, an application form, and a little bit about those timelines that we're aiming for. So there will be a question allocation time at the end, so I'll facilitate those as well. So if you can hold of those questions or pop them in the chat, and we will get to them at the end. Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to get started with Axel. Take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Danae. So I thought I might just start off with a bit of a presentation on last year's effigy build, just to give you a bit of an idea of how we did it, a bit of an idea of the scale of what we're looking at with the budget that we're going for this year. So I'm able to share my background. Danae, am I able to share my background? Oh, here we are.
Yep, you should be able to. There you go.
All right, can you see that? Can you see that emu, everybody? So we did a little bit of a call out for or an expression of interest for people to put in some ideas for an effigy. It was a very short deadline last year as well, because it was the first event. We didn't really know, what sort of support we'd have on site. So we just sort of gathered a few people together and we got going. So I'll start off this presentation. We decided on an emu, and then we decided on a scale. So this was Danae's scale. So this was a 1 Hills hoist height, essentially, which provided us the scale for the effigy. And the reason we chose this sort of scale is because it made for an easy sort of working height. You know, you're working sort of up like this, you're not working at heights. And it's, you know, relatively small, easy to manage. So we did a few design documentation. So this was the skeleton of the effigy, as we called it, the effigy emu. And this is what we based our structure on. And then we moved on to getting the materials. So this was sort of the framing, and I managed to gather this up over the year, basically, just sort of scrounging around job sites and hitting up people who were on job sites to get a couple of works of timber here and there. This was the part of the frame that we built on site. And if you notice, we've built it on the ground and we've put a structure over the top of it. So it made it really nice and easy to work on at this scale and on the ground. There's another one of it. And then we used the farmer's tractor to move it around and to lift it up. So we're not necessarily going to have access to that this year. This is the last site that we were at. But what you can see there in the foreground is a whole heap of timber that we managed to scavenge from site, which we use for the cladding of the effigy. And you can see us here standing it up and cladding it. So we use a lot of different materials from the site, sticks and bark and things like that we gathered. And that's a really good way to recycle the things that are around, as well as adds a little bit of nature in there as well, to have sticks and things like that. This is a picture of the head of the effigy, and then a small cladding. And so you can see, get an idea of the scale of that there with the ladder against it. As you notice, everyone's sort of working around it and not really up very high. Apart from this one, where we've got 3 people holding the ladder. So very good OH&S there. And this is us standing on top, getting the head erected. This is another picture of the cladding that we use. And I'd suggest that this is, you know, the way that we might potentially clad this year's effigy, or even potentially the temple, depending on the design. So usually when you're designing, you sort of go backwards and forwards between the scale and the materials and what's available. And they sort of eat each other down till you have something viable. So yeah, that was the finished product. And after we finished it, we posted pictures in front of it, and then we burnt it. And this is all that's left of it. So at the very end of the event, we need to clean up, essentially. So what we did there is we raked up all of the coals, got all of the fixings, all the screws and bolts and nails as much as we could. And you can see us there using a magnetic rake, and then just going through and just basically raking out all of the fixings. And this is generally expected as part of a leave no trace policy. That's all us all standing there very satisfied that we'd finished the job. And this is potentially what we've got to work with this year. So just moving on a little bit into materials. I've had a conversation with Mick, the landowner, and he's managed to find us a building that we can potentially demolish. I'm not sure how viable this is going to be, but it is there as a material source, so we might be able to use that in the future. So I'll just leave that there for the moment. What else have I got? So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was workshops. So hold on. So as part of building these structures, I'm a very big proponent of getting all of the materials together and doing a lot of workshops beforehand. So usually before the event for something that I'm going to build, I'll be running a workshop every second weekend. Now, this is not necessarily how this year's going to run, but it is a possibility. And I just want to show you what can be achieved. So this is my backyard in my last place in 2018 for burning seed. And I used a whole heap of pallets. And so I ran these workshops every second weekend. And it's really, if you have a big structure and you need a lot of material, it's really how enthusiastic you want to be with your material collecting. So just to give you an example, this is a workshop that I ran, and this is people breaking down pallets. And that's basically all I did for a number of weeks, was just run workshops where people broke down pallets. This is the truck this is the amount of pallet timber that we managed to get over a couple of weeks. And so essentially this material was free bar the labor. So you're really just limited by your enthusiasm and your time. So that material made a beautiful cladding. So you wouldn't have been able to buy that or replicate that unless it was recycled. That was the finished structure in that cladding. And that was the cladding on fire. There it is. So it turned out really beautiful because we used that recycled material. I'll just go on to another one. So this is another workshop that I was running, and this is for 2019 effigy. And you can see there's about 7 or 8 people working there. And we did a similar thing. We got all of the material together. We were able to mock up sections of the effigy, and also doing these workshops, you're able to, if you're doing a week on, week off, you're able to sort of sort out problems that you might have with the design during your off periods. You've got more time to think about it rather than being on site, because you don't have much time to muck about. You sort of got to get it done. So this is all of the cladding, and this is all recycled and processed. All of these feathers were processed on the workshops or during the workshops. And this is the same truck that we used the previous year. And you can see how much material we managed to transport up. This is the finished product, essentially. And 90% of this is recycled, reclaimed. There's a little bit of framing in there that's not, but the majority of it is recycled, processed in Melbourne, and then transported. So you can see you're only really limited by your imagination. And that's pretty much it for that presentation. I might just throw to Glenn as far as the site stuff.
Hello. I'll just try to work through a bit more quickly. The screen's not jumping to me. It's anyway, I'll keep going. Okay, so big shout out to the board and all the people actually organising the logistics of the event. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they're doing behind the scenes, which I won't go through today. However, what it means is that like everything's not sorted as much as work they're doing. So this build, we need to really come in with the attitude that things aren't always specific or detailed. So there'll be a bunch of communal effort. So you'll be expected to sort of jump in and we'll work out what we need to work out amongst everyone that's there. But what we can promise is there'll be toilets on site, and everybody will be familiar with camping. So we'll have be able to camp there. We will be low on tools. We simply don't have big budgets of a festival that's been running for many years. They've been able to build up tools. So a lot of the tools we'll be using are personal tools. So just bear that in mind as well. And then the main thing we're unsure about is food and kitchens. So the logistics people are working on, well, there will be a physical kitchen and place to cook. The sort of numbers of volunteers and people running the kitchen, we're very unsure of. Worst case scenario, it just means that we'll need to do shifts in the kitchen to run the crews to be able to do the work. But we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully we do get some volleys in to actually run the kitchen for us. All right. And we also wanted to talk a little bit about how we actually run the builds, which is a bit different to some other burns that you may know and love. And in that context, we're trying to remove the lead designer or sort of the rock star that sits at the top that sort of directs the entire build. And we're much more interested in the process and the process of everybody coming in to pitch together. So in that case, we're not really calling out for concepts at the moment. We're calling out for team members, and within those team members, we'll work on concepts. And so the people who are actually doing the work and building it will actually play a role in the design. We also want to focus on participation. So everyone will have a leadership role of some sort, and we'll work through what different roles there will be on site in the build, and then everyone will have a role in actually sharing that leadership capability. And what we're really trying to do is build the capability and skills of the people. So that means in next year or in a few years, we've actually got people that can build their own crews together. They can pitch their own concepts. And then we'll get much more diversity rather than just a small group of people that have that skills or the opportunity to actually learn that leadership experience. So yeah, a really good opportunity to jump in this year to actually get those skills and get into that space. Yeah, so that comes across the communal effort, responsibilities, also self-expression, because everyone will get a chance to be able to contribute creativity to the process, and civic responsibility. So that's it for the build. We can follow up with questions if you've got specific questions. Now, I just wanted to add another thing that we're really focusing on this year is safety documentation, because it's really important that we get all this stuff in place. There has been times in the past where a lot of safety coordination is dependent on individuals. And if those individuals, were sick or something happened to them, then we're actually in high risk of not being able to actually burn or have the skills to do it safely. So we're really keen to actually build the documentation, build a team that's managing that documentation, train up people on safety. So that means that we can distribute that responsibility. Because the other thing, if you've only got one person that can lead the safety on a burn, that means they've got to be sober and on working potentially Friday night, definitely Saturday night and Sunday night. So it'd be far better if we've got a bunch of people that can lead those safety requirements. So now we're going to jump over to Danae, who's going to talk about the exciting bit is applications and getting involved.
Thank you very much, guys. Yep, so I'll just summarize everything here for you. So you have heard right. We are aiming for an effigy and a temple this year. So we're really upping our game. We listened to our community post the event last year and felt that that was definitely something that we were missing. So we are aiming for that. We are looking for about 4 to 5 additional people to our crew to help us, who can kind of really be a part of that schedule in whatever capacity, whatever time you've got. We can be flexible and work around you. but we're really looking to skill share and build those skills up amongst our current team and having additional team members that we can pass those on to. So we are going to be sending out, oh yes, and I will, the exciting part, we have a budget. So we actually have a little bit of money in the kitty that we're being allocated. So we're looking at roughly between 4 and 5K for our effigy and between 3 and 4K for our temple. So it does mean that we do have a little bit to play with, and that will also be the decision of our team members to then how that will be allocated to tools or to materials, etc. So yeah, like we said, it's a big responsibility on everybody as part of the team. It's not like there'll be somebody who'll be handling that. All team members will be involved in all aspects of the build. So yes, application form. So we are going to be sending out an application link that we're putting into the chat. If everything that we've talked about really gets you excited or curious, or even if you're very concerned, please fill it out and help us to get these builds onto their feet. Okay, so we're looking to close those applications on Thursday the 25th. So you've got just over a week to fill that out, please. And then we'll be having a look at those. If it turns out that we do have many people who would like to be involved, we will be looking to probably look at making a selection for suitable members of that team. So that'll be based on availability. So team members who, of course, have availabilities available for build week beforehand, or good availabilities for meetings and other workshops, as Axel was mentioning, on weekends and things. And then also diversity. We do want to make sure that we have that culture embedded of supporting people with diverse backgrounds and skills to be part of that process. So whilst we're also open to more mentors on this build team, so people like Glenn and Axel who have previous build and burning experience, I can certainly speak that I came into this team with absolutely no experience, and I'm learning and developing those skills. So if anyone does want to speak to me more about that process or about what it's like, or if you're feeling apprehensive or unsure if this is something that you can be a part of, I ask for you to reach out to me on Slack, and yeah, I'd love to have a chat with you and talk further about that and see if it is something that you could see yourself stepping into, because it is an awesome, amazing experience to be part of. And I think that's our aim, is to get more and more people into that realm of excitement. And I'll stop talking now. Timeline. So yes, we are getting down to crunch times. We are looking at that core crew being secured by next week. So with that closing of the applications, we're hoping to have a team. We'll be contacting people and letting you know if you've been successful, I guess. Our next milestone, of course, is that a design concept, and we're aiming to actually have that done by the end of the month. So once that core team is secured, we'll be having a meeting quick start to really start talking that round table and what are those designs, that are buzzing around in people's heads are going to look like. And then what happens after that is up to the team to decide. So it's a very organic, flowy process, I'm sure you can appreciate. And that's what makes it even more exciting. I think we've done really well. We've whipped through this, which is fantastic. But if there are any questions, if anyone would like to ask any questions of the team, either put that in the chat or just raise your hand or speak up. We've got a few more minutes.
So Danae, are we looking for 4 to 5 people overall over both builds, or are we looking for 4 to 5 people per build?
At the moment, we already have our last year's build team. So both Glenn and yourself, myself will be on site, but I won't be actively involved in the build. So we do have Ronnie, Tiff and Louise have expressed that they are keen to be a part again. And as part of our, I guess, that culture embedding, we'd like to continue to get those skills that those people from the previous build have learnt and pass them on as well. So we have invited the past builders to be a part of the next process. So that hopefully means then we've got 5 people already on a team. And then, yes, we're looking for an additional 4 to 5 to help us then. And whether it will be separate teams of, this will be an effigy team and this will be a temple team, or whether it'll be a bit more organic and people working across both. We're not sure how it will flow out, but we definitely want at least 4 to 5 people to to figure that out with. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. No worries.
Yeah. Can I also comment that these discussions on people are specifically for the on-site pre-build for that week. There's a whole bunch of roles leading up, the safety stuff that I discussed earlier, and the workshops that Maxwell talked about earlier. And there's also stuff in between, for example, 3D modeling and some design refinements. So yeah, if you can't commit on site, yeah, there's a heap of opportunity that you may be able to get involved. So definitely think about that as well. And
Yeah,
also during the event.
Yeah, don't feel that if you just can't do the full-time commitment, as I like to refer to it, we've got plenty of part-time casual roles. If you have the calling, the feel, the vibe, the pull, please fill out the application form and get in touch with us with what you'd like to, how you'd like to be involved. Shane, you got a question for us?
Yeah, you say build a week. Are you anticipating 7 days on site before the pre-event? That's it. Okay, that's good.
We're hoping.
7 days. Perfect. All right, that's not too much. That's good.
Yeah.
I
It's
know you don't
really,
have
it's,
time yet, but
There were only 5 days before for just Effimu, wasn't it?
yeah, 5 days
It was
before
5
the
days,
event.
yeah.
It's really the scale of the thing that we're doing as well. And a 1 week build, that's a commitment that a lot of people can actually make. So
yeah.
it opens it up. And especially if we do a few workshops. I know with the FBO we did one all together, and then Danae did a couple herself. And then lots of design meetings in between just to sort of nut it out. But yeah, 1 week was a really cruisy build for 5 to 6 people, which was nice. For that scale, it's something around about 6 meters. 6 meters is good.
Have you got any restrictions on height with the fire permits or anything?
We'll more likely logistically keep it small, because yeah, the height is a big issue for, you know, efficiencies working on site. So we're probably going to keep it short more for practical reasons rather than any sort of permit restrictions. So if you've got an idea maybe of a really tall spire, a bit like the Arts Centre Melbourne, then maybe we'll have a look at the permits and see what our restrictions are.
JC, go ahead.
Yeah, just on that note, I do feel that given it's the first year permitted and we're sort of setting the precedent, then doing it sort of smaller just to show things like the CFA and the council and Mick, the landholder, that what we can do and we can do it safely, just as that first sort of that's been set, and then, you know, hopefully in years to come, they'll be more comfortable with us doing, you know, bigger builds as well.
Thanks for that. Yep, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Also with the budget, you know, you can't really build a massive structure with a small budget like that, unless you're really creative, I suppose.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Well, we can't afford a crane, so that holds us back a bit.
It's the scaffolding and things, isn't it? When you get to a certain height, and that's getting it up there, it's hiring it, it's and it eats into the budget, the very small budget that you got anyway. Yeah.
Boom lifts, then people with tickets, it gets far more complex.
JC, you got another one, or is that just you hand left over?
And just quickly on like timelines as well.
Yes.
It has been agreed that we've got up to 2 weeks beforehand, just as like a time buffer, if you will. That's sort of an agreement that we have with Mick again, and also in the permit.
Great, cool, good to know. Thank you. Shane, what you got for us?
Yeah, just I know you can't rent a crane or an EWP or anything like that. It's a little bit out of the budget. But what about just like a work you did, or is somebody going to donate their car to this event?
To stand on?
Well, no, just to run around, man. Running tools around. You got 2 different builds.
Yeah.
You got to run in at Bunnings. You got to do lots of different. You pick up lumber, move it about. You'd probably need something with a tray, right? Potentially, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe.
No,
maybe
that would definitely be ideal. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
Over to JC.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a site on site from the start as part of our planting machinery. Possibly two, but that's probably going to be a bit of overstep. But there'll definitely be one for sure.
Please get in touch with us. Thank you for keeping in tabs with what we're up to and what we're doing, and yeah, showing an interest and wanting to get involved. Of course, as we know, it's a democracy. We got to do it, otherwise it doesn't get done. So if that really tingles you in your heart bones, please make sure you get in touch with us, get involved, and be a part of it. Or reach out to any one of us on Slack if you want to have a little bit more of a chat and get some more information before seeing what kind of role you might be able to be involved. But we need you.